Welcome into TimeOut Kansas City here on the FiredUP Network. And you can see us on multiple streaming platforms nationwide. We're going to just do a quick run through of the week that was in Kansas City sports and look forward a little bit. Next week, we're going to be talking a lot of NFL draft. We have a draft analyst coming on too. But this week, I'm joined by the Playmaker, Chris Stimpson from Hot 103 Jams, and Steve from the Paint the Wall podcast covering the Kansas City soccer community. And Chris, you and I were in the stadium witnessing greatness in person as Lionel Messi made his Kansas City debut in Major League Soccer. And, I think a lot of the fans were happy to see Sporting play well, but there was a lot of fans there that were there for Messi, and he didn't disappoint. Even if you're not a big soccer expert, you can tell just from looking, okay, that guy's different. He's a different level.
Oh, he delivered the goods Saturday night. It was definitely worth being out there Arrowhead for half of my day. It was a great crowd, great atmosphere. Yeah. And like you said, I was expecting more Messi fans or more pink jerseys around there, but it really was a great sporting crowd out there Saturday night. But they even had to give him the applause and the claps for his performance on Saturday night. So it was definitely worth getting to see that in person. I'm glad we weren't disappointed. I was worried we might get disappointed as far as him not doing much on the field.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we got the full Messi experience and got to see Luis Suarez and Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba and the whole circus in town. It was a great, great night.
Yeah, that's a strong team. They're going to be a major contender.
Oh yeah,
Steve, is it safe to say that just the offensive firepower, just for Messi and Suarez alone, puts Miami up at the top of the table as one of the favorites?
Yeah, for sure. If they're both healthy and playing, I know Messi he has to have his naps built in. Anybody who's an avid listener of our podcast knows I'm not a Messi fan, so I'm in the minority there, I think. But yeah, I would say with their attacking power, they're definitely a big threat coming from the east side for sure.
And then from Sporting's perspective, I mean they hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
They hung in there. Maybe at the end there's a tactical. And you'll probably have a better idea of this than what I did from seeing it. But I think Peter kind of explained that last goal in the press conference that it was a mistake of tactics trying to build out from the back and getting it to Jake and letting Jake dribble it up. That really Tim Melia, he didn't say it, but it was implied that Tim Melia should have just blasted it as far forward as he could have and take your time to regroup. It was just too tempting, and Jake just didn't really have a chance.
Yeah, I think you're right. He didn't quite say it. Tim did. Tim said in his post-match that he shouldn't have played that ball to Jake. I agree. That ball shouldn't have been. That should have just been kicked long and let us regroup from there. But it seems to be after the 65th minute this year. There's always something. Always something. We've been outscored now 10-1.
Yeah.
After the 70th minute, we've dropped 12 points now from winning position. Wow. So this one's a little weighted because we had the lead in the 6th minute. So a little bit different of a scenario, but still 12 points after winning position is a lot of points to drop. So
yeah, I mean it's 4 wins. I saw Chad from KC Soccer Journal posted that, and I mean it's really like being a baseball team and losing the lead in the 7th inning. How do you change that? What are you seeing as the difference? Because they've had an explosive offense. They've thrown lots of shots forward in the first half and created some dangerous opportunities. And then the second half, it's just been park the bus and let's sit back and wait. Why do you think that's happening?
I don't think there's a problem with the park the bus in certain games, in certain scenarios. Some games it's not the right move. I think what we're missing is we need help from our bench to close these games out. I think the players are there on the bench. They're just not being utilized the way that they need to be. They're not, Peter's not making subs when he needs to, or it's too late. We saw Johnny make his return in the 85th minute, but to me, that's bare minimum 10 minutes too late for a sub in that kind of situation. So I think that's our biggest issue with losing these is we're not utilizing our bench to help us close these games out.
Well, and now, Chris, I do agree with that, Steve. I think we saw a guy who may be part of the answer. a guy who's been vilified for years by sporting fans, but if the team's going to park the bus, you need the bus driver, and the bus driver that holds possession and kind of clogs up the other team's offense. He was bouncing around on both of his feet saying, hey, I'm almost ready. And when I asked him, hey, are you close? Are you good? And our friend Kyrie Shelton said, yeah, man, I'm close. I'm really good. I mean, is it just that simple that if we're going to park the bus, we need the bus driver? Because in the last few years, that's been Kyrie's role.
I was thinking that when you said that, that's the first person came to my head with Kyrie Shelton helping the game like that to help control possession was just a little bit more. Or even going back to one of my favorite players of all time in sport, Roger Espinoza, who's not there nowadays. You know, would he be a help coming off the bench, Steve, to help out with something like that? Do we need that type of midfielder? If Walter not getting hurt, would that made a difference as well? Because he got hurt. Was it second half?
Yeah,
I can't remember. It was first half.
Which obviously hurt too.
Yeah. But no, I agree. I think players like Kyrie, that's where they're most valuable. You don't think they're valuable or something like that, but like you say, holding up ball, holding up possession, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve, to cross sports analogies, played basketball, I covered a lot of basketball. Every so often, you need somebody to go in there. Old school reference with the Cleveland Cavaliers, we had Lonnie Shelton. And you put Lonnie Shelton in there on the best offensive player, and he just made sure that guy did nothing and just physicaled them and shoved him around. Are we missing somebody to do that? Can that be Kyrie Shelton?
Yeah, I definitely think that we're missing that. I think to answer your other question, Voltaire getting hurt was definitely kind of a blow in that realm. He would have been very useful towards the end of that game, helping because Felipe is more of a attacking mid. So having that defensive presence definitely would help. Roger Espinoza is an incredible example of someone who we've used in the past for that exact role. I think on our podcast, we tend to have a very different outlook of Kyrie Shelton than most people do. I do not think Kyrie would be the answer there.
Okay.
I think he played right back a couple times last year, and I don't think did very well. I think he got burned a lot when he played right.
Oh, I was thinking mainly going in at a forward position and just slowing things down, just eating the clock up.
Ball play.
Yeah, he is probably good from that perspective. Yeah, he's good at holding the ball. He did last year. He had a problem with getting worked off the ball, which seems strange because he's so much bigger than everybody.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a common theme that we were talking about a lot, was him getting worked off the ball in situations where we need him to not get worked off the ball. So I am hopeful that coming back from injury, he'll be a little more productive in that role than he was last year. So you never know when they come off injury. Maybe that'll solve some problems for us.
Yeah. What do you think the main thing is that's stopping the offense? Because that's not a winning formula, getting outscored by 10 in the second half.
No, I think a key thing that we're missing is Polito playing the way that he needs to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
This game is a perfect example. I mean, he had the most movement. I think by the 70th minute, he had like 5.2 miles that he had run. That was the most out of any team. But we weren't playing through him. And then in the second half, we started playing through him, which is how that formation is designed. You have to play through the center attacking mid there. But we weren't doing that. And then in the second half, when we started playing through him, he was making bad passes and getting the ball worked off of him. And he just didn't look great in that second half. I think that is especially if we're going to stick with this 4-2-3-1 formation, he has to play better. We have to get better play from him in the middle.
Are him and Willie in the right positions, or would you flip them?
I would keep them where they're at for sure. I think Willie's more of a sniper type striker, and I love him up front. Just, feed me the ball and I'll take shots all day long. And some of them will go in, some of them will go into the 50th row. You never know with Willie. But I think they're in the right spot. I think Polito has always kind of played like a center attacking mid anyway. He's always dropped back a lot. So I think he's in the right position. He's just not playing well.
Well, and maybe it's just a matter of getting there's again, another recurring theme with Sporting. We got to get all the pieces in place.
Mm-hmm.
We were missing Fontas. Fontas is back, and then now we got Johnny out, and Remy says it's mild, but Chris, you and I saw him walking out of there in a boot, so
Yeah,
It can't be that mild.
Yeah, and by the way, huge matchup coming up this weekend against one of your main rival now,
St. Louis.
or at least the big rival of today with St. Louis coming into town. So, a big matchup now, especially with the last two results that Sporting has went through, no doubt.
Well, now, hey, right now, let's go ahead and I do want to highlight an interview did at the game, and then let's talk about the impact of the game itself, the attendance and the crowd on the city. Sporting did bring back a lot of players from the team's history. It just so happened, and probably not coincidentally, the Inter Miami game at Arrowhead was 28 years to the day of the first game for the Wiz. I had a chance to talk with Jimmy Conrad, a legend in the team, about the impact of the game. Just for reference, anybody watching this, we did the interview at halftime, so the reference about whether Sporting can win it or not is a little bit dated, but we can definitely talk about what Jimmy said the influence of the game can be.
Joined here by a member of Sporting Kansas City's Ring of Honor, Jimmy Conrad, longtime player for Kansas City, the Wiz, and Sporting. Jimmy, how do you feel being back in Arrowhead Stadium with almost a full house?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it shows and demonstrates the power of the sport, and obviously when you have one of the world's best players or the world's best player in the house, it makes a big difference. And I think it's a good opportunity for the club to showcase what they're made of and how they can go toe-to-toe with some of the best players in the world. So, yeah, big opportunity tonight. We had it 14 years ago when we played against Manchester United. We won that game 2-1, despite me getting a red card, and I'm hopeful that we can pull it out tonight so that we can maybe change some minds about I know some fans support other leagues, and maybe they'll look to support their local team as well.
Well, I think with the World Cup coming, the interest level in soccer, just in general, is much more palpable, I guess you could say. How much does a Sporting win in this atmosphere help build that momentum up to the World Cup?
I do think it helps. If you win, and there's two things to this. A win obviously helps. The second thing is, how are you playing when you win? Because if you go out there and it's kind of scrappy and you barely get by. When we took on Manchester United, we made some plays that demonstrated that we could hold our own against the best in the world, and I think that's important too. So it's not just winning, it's how you win. And I think what I saw in the first half, it's all positive. So hopefully we can do some things in the second half to go on and get the 3 points. That said, what this demonstrates and hopefully shows everybody that came tonight is that we have a very important atmosphere and culture and sense of community, which I think really brings the sport together, and it's thriving here. And so we just need to get more and more people involved. But I think it'll be at a fever pitch come World Cup time in 2026, because that tournament is a different beast. And I'm excited for the fans here to understand and appreciate, because I grew up in LA, so when the 94 World Cup came, I got introduced to Brazilian fans, thousands of Brazilian fans in a little area in Old Town Pasadena where I used to live. And then all of a sudden another set of Italians will be there, and you just get introduced to their joy and their love for the game. And so for the people of Kansas City to have that, we obviously don't know who's going to be playing in these games yet, but for them to have that is going to be really special. And just like it did for me, it plants a seed that I want to be a part of that. I want to make people that happy. And I had the opportunity to do that when I represented the U.S. in the World Cup. But the seed started there. So I'm hopeful that it can inspire some kids on both sides for the men's and women's national team moving forward about how powerful this sport can be and how it can change the world in a positive way.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for taking a couple minutes.
Well, there we go. And that's from one of the legends of Sporting Kansas City and the Wiz. And, just a great attitude. And, if you remember, he used to do a weekly radio show, and always positive and just a great spokesperson for the team and the game. But, Steve, how much does a game like this, where you had 72,600 people at GEHA Stadium, and it was a Chiefs-like crowd. I mean, it was the same thing with the tailgating. It was hard to get in. It was hard to get out. It took me 45 minutes to get out of the parking lot, and I stayed for both press conferences and went in the locker room. So the people were staying. I mean, they were still happy. They were kind of celebrating. How much does that help cement Kansas City as the soccer capital of the U.S.?
In my opinion, it's indescribable the amount that helps, both for sporting, like for sporting as a club and for the city. I know I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter since the game of a lot of people that went to the game because they wanted to see Messi or they just wanted to be a part of it. And they were like, this game's a lot more fun to watch than we anticipated. And so now they're like, how do I get more into it? How do I, I want to go to a game at Children's Mercy. And so I think from a club perspective, invaluable. It's going to draw a lot of people. It already has drawn a lot of fans. And any opportunity that we have to put that city in front of people, to put Kansas City in front of people, is always going to be good. And I think with the World Cup coming up, us being able to show what that stadium, which is where the World Cup will be played, full of 72,000 people. Like we did this for a regular season MLS game. Yeah. The greatest player in the world was there. But still, put it for a World Cup. It's not going to matter who's playing. That stadium's going to be full and rocking because Kansas City loves soccer.
And Chris, what was your reaction just as a Kansas City resident going to the game? Because I was impressed.
It was just awesome. It reminded me of literally going to a Chiefs game. That's what it reminded me of, trying to get into the stadium, getting to the seat, just seeing the atmosphere out there. You can look out to see people still coming in from I-70 right before kickoff. That tells you people are still trying to get in to see it. Like I said, the atmosphere was just lovely from the beginning to the end. It was amazing to see that. And like you said, the first thing that came to my head was like, man, it's going to look like this for 2026. And the fans, I agree with what Jimmy was saying. Like, just seeing all the Argentinian fans out there, because there was a lot of Argentinian kids outside and a lot of music playing and a lot of people having a great time and partying before and after the game. It was just amazing to see that. It's like, I can only imagine what's going to be like, not only just for the World Cup, but we got the Copa America, a couple of games coming here this summer as well. So it'll be interesting to see the Uruguayan fans coming up when they play the U.S. That should be amazing as well. Hopefully I can get up in there for that.
Yeah, and, the other thing Jimmy mentioned, it helps that you play well, and Eric Tomey did the job. I mean, he was one of the MLS players of the week. He played great. Peter Vermees said he was a machine out there.
He's been great all season, it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
Would you say Steve's been the best offensive player far this season?
I think so. I think so. At this point, he's our MVP on offense and for the whole team. You could make an argument for Amelia. He's kept us in a lot of big games too. But yeah, Eric Tomey was absolutely lights out in that game.
Yeah, he's been electric, and he's been the guy that when the ball's with him, when he's in possession, you have to watch, because he's the guy who's made the electrifying and the dynamic plays.
Oh, yeah. That second goal was beautiful, by the way. How he caught that off the set piece and caught that off the one time. That was beautiful to see. I was like, oh, we got a good game. That's why I was interested. I was like, can we keep up? And we did, until that mistake that happened to give up that Miami third goal. But yeah. What a great night it was for Tommy. And the offense, they're clicking. It's just, like you said, it just gets to that second half. It's just like they get figured out or they run out of ideas. I don't know what it is that happens, like in that second half, where we're not closing out games.
Well, still, keep it in perspective, a lot better position than they were at this point last year, and a lot less problems to deal with. Last year, they had 99 problems, and winning was number one. This year, they have a lot less problems. They just have to hold on to the lead. So that's a much better position to be in. Now, let's go across the city, down by the river. The Kansas City Current, they didn't win for the first time this year, but I think it was a pretty good decision. They got a tie on the road against the defending champions. And Steve, this is about the extent of my soccer tactical knowledge. This is going back to when I did play-by-play for Cleveland State University. Cleveland State did the dump the ball into the front and see if the striker can hold it. That was their chosen style, whereas Akron built from the back and had the backs run it up, much more like Sporting does. Is the Current trying to just play kind of drop and run and get it up to the striker? Because that seemed to be the philosophy in the second half.
Yeah, I would say, especially with Timwa in there, with Miss Chewinga, with how fast she is, it just seems like the best option is to, feed it to Bia first, and then Bia can feed it the rest of the way, or just drop it over the top and just let her speed her speed do the talking, and it worked in the first half. So yeah, I would say that seems to kind of be what they're leaning towards.
And if it works, great. I mean, I don't know if you want to overreact that much to a draw on the road against the defending champion. I mean, that's not a bad decision.
No, they always say a point on the road and 3 at home will get you where you want to go. So, especially their home opener, they're defending champs. They're good. Yeah, and we got an incredible performance from AD Franch to keep that game close where it needed to be.
Yeah.
And we'll take a draw. Still undefeated. So
yeah, no, great game-saving save from Franch. Bounced it off the post and caught it on the line. That was a dramatic save.
Maybe a little luck, but we'll take it.
Yeah. Well, hey, the ball bounces in unusual ways. Now, how much will they be helped with Davina coming back, which should be soon? They said she'd be back after the international break.
Yeah, I think that'll be very helpful as well, because she's another one of those, like, it's hard to really put into words how helpful she is. And with our team playing as well as they are now, adding her into the mix is just going to be a whole different squad almost. I think it's going to be really good. We're going to be tough to beat. We're already tough to beat.
Yeah, Chris, I don't think anybody would have picked them to be 3-0-1 or 3-1-0 after 4 matches, with Davina only playing one half of one game.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like you said, the success. I saw the first goal would be how she laid it up to Tim and that speed. What did Gerard Dyson say? That's what speed do?
Yeah. Speed do.
She literally went from box to box and got ahead of everybody and got that nice goal. So they're clicking on all cylinders right now. I was happy to see that they didn't let in a lot of goals. It seemed like all the wins has been high scoring. And in this case, 1-1, of course, you always take the victory. But, like you say, you're going to the defending champions. I believe it was the Gotham's first home game of the season. And so to come out that's cool. And by the way, just watching the second half, Esther, I think that's how you say her name, could have had a couple of goals in that second half as well, too. So definitely great to come out with that point and walk away. So that's pretty good, and get ready for the next one.
Well, and now they're back home. So get back home, get another game at CPKC Stadium, pop a win on the board, and then you're in great shape. And again, dramatically different positions for the Current this year than at this time last year. Now let's go across to the other tenant at the Truman Sports Complex, at least for a little while longer, because we can talk about the vote not going through as well. The Royals, dramatically different position than last year as well. They're sitting at 11-6 as we're in the studio, and Bobby Witt Jr. is coming through big. I mean, he looks like the superstar. He looks like one of the 10 best players in baseball. How are you feeling for the Royals so far?
Earning his money. That's what I'm talking about. That's the way to show up, earn that money. They might want to do another vote just to keep them more motivated out here and see what the Royals is doing. But I think the biggest thing is the pitching has been amazing. It's been amazing. Brady Singer, I think his ERA is under 1, which is crazy right now. Cole Reagans has been on 1. The game of the day I watched with Seth Lugo, how he did his thing against the White Sox the other night. So great pitching, first of all. That's great to see. And the other thing too I like is what I always say: you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and that's what they're doing right now. They are beating the teams they're supposed to beat, even though they didn't win the series in New York. Or did they win the series? I can't remember if they won the series. The split, yeah. But still, just doing that, the old Royals wouldn't have did that. So that's good to see. I think it took them till May to get their 11 wins, and they already got it now. So great to see what the Royals are doing. I think it's something they can maintain too. So I like to see it. I think it's maintainable for what they're doing right now. That's what I like to see. Nobody's not doing too much. Everybody's doing their job. Next man up, get a start, do their thing. Hitters doing what they're supposed to do. I love to see it.
Yeah, and we haven't seen Michael Massey up yet. Vinny Pasquantino just getting rolling after missing a lot of last year with the shoulder injury.
Yeah.
They're looking good. And I know it's early, but it's not that early. You get up to 11 wins, you start breaking the math down. If they just go 500 from today on, maybe like a game over, they're probably making a wild card. and they have a really good shot of winning the Central Division. I mean, it's crazy, but that's all it takes is one or two good spurts and then play 500 the rest of the way. And Steve, I mean, I don't know. I think I've seen enough to say they can play 500 the rest of the way because, and to quote Dayton Moore, pitching's the currency of baseball, and they seem to have it right now.
Yeah, our starting pitching, I mean, their ERA is like a 2.6 or something like that. That's just
crazy.
That's crazy for a full starting rotation. But I mean, I will say, thank God for the Chicago White Sox. That's a big reason. I think we're 5-0 against them and 6-5 against everybody else we've played.
Sure.
So, but like you said, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. You know, when you have to play some of the better teams, it's going to be harder. But the way Bobby Witt's playing and the way like Vinny's back coming alive, I think is crucial. That's going to be a big deal, especially if Salvi has to miss more games or anything like that. Having Vinny with a little bit of a bat back is definitely going to help. But
absolutely,
yeah, I foresee them being able to be in at least a wild card conversation, if not the division conversation, by the end of the year.
Oh, and how much better is it to have Alec March going out there and pitching effectively as opposed to Jordan Lyle going out there just to take a beating?
Yeah. Yes. No, that's big. We'll learn more about him at this homestand coming up because I believe it's Baltimore coming in town and I think Toronto after that. So we'll definitely learn a little bit more about what the Royals are doing. But I definitely love the start. I love to see what's going on. I was expecting them to look as good as they're looking right now. And you're getting a lot of contributors from all around the diamond. So I love to see it.
Well, another Royals topic. Why do you think the stadium didn't go? And you and I both know, we all know, that wasn't the only vote. They're going to keep going. And I don't know how many more votes there will be on the Missouri side, but Clay County and Wyandotte County, you know, they're knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a redo in Jackson County and maybe this time they go to the original site, the East Village, that open area? If you go to downtown Kansas City, there's this big open area of essentially nothing next to City Hall that's mostly owned by people who own the Royals. J.E. Dunn, Meritor Kemper, they own most of that property. Do you think that's the place they end up trying? Because it was just weird. It was ham-handed how they put the plan in place, and they had to change the plan like a week before the election because they didn't want to close Oak Street. And if you don't close Oak Street, there's not even enough space to jam the stadium in there. So nothing seemed all that thought out except for the fact that they broke the record for spending on a county election by spending $6 million in ads to try and push it over the table.
I think just from the feedback I've been getting, a lot of people didn't want it at the Crossroads area, or at least where they were going to put it at. I think a lot of people are also not sympathetic to the Royal situation right now. I think a lot of people, what I kept hearing is that they don't do enough winning or don't do enough to deserve that type of money. And a lot of people just don't want to spend no extra money on taxes, which I was surprised on that end, but I think if they do decide to pick another location, I think they will get it. I just think it was just that specific location. And I do believe if it was separate, the Chiefs would have got what they got, and I think the Royals would have been reworking what they're doing right now. So it'll be interesting to see how both of them go forward. But not sure what y'all heard on y'all end, but that's some of the things I was hearing on my end, just at the station and just out in the streets or on social media.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing I think is just there is a very hard drive across the country of not giving the teams everything. I have a lot of friends in Las Vegas. I've done work with Las Vegas Pro Wrestling, and even in Las Vegas, where Bally's is giving the A's the property, they're going to knock down the Tropicana. That's where the stadium's going, right on the Strip. There's a vote for partial funding by the city, and it's shaky if that's going to pass. And that's a city that's been begging to get a baseball team for years, and it's almost a guaranteed moneymaker, and it's not guaranteed to pass. Steve, do you think it's just that maybe the era of the cities paying for the stadium in full is over, and the leagues are going to have to figure out a way to finance it?
Yeah, it might be. I think from a lot of the like interviews and stuff that I listened to with the Kansas City vote, the biggest problem that everybody had, aside from that one, was the way the Royals, well, both teams, but really it was the Royals, how they laid out the plan, and like you said, the fact that the site changed last minute and then
Yeah.
changed again last minute, and I just think people didn't think it was transparent enough, as far as what they were actually trying to do and what their goal was. I think they'll probably try again. I do think it'll be separate, the two teams. And I'm not sure if they're going to switch sites. I don't know why they're so locked on the Crossroads sites, but I don't think it'd be a bad site as far as once it's done. Like, oh, this will be cool. Yeah. But I think it'd probably be smarter to go with the East Village site. But yeah, I think the bigger problem was that they didn't propose the issue very well.
In the terms of conspiracy theories, supposedly the city wasn't willing to subvent and back up another entertainment district that was going to be so close to the Power and Light District, which is already backed by city bonds. And the city really, really, really wants to make a big deal of the park that's going over 670, which will connect the P&L to the Crossroads, to Lowe's Hotel, the big convention hotel, and conveniently to the gigantic empty glass building that's the former Kansas City Star site, which is, useless for anything else. So it seems like the city has a vested interest in them going there, but that wasn't communicated either. Mm-hmm. Now, this is all coming out post that was a big part of the reason, because the Royals wanted to have an entertainment district in East Village, and if the city's not willing to back it and get bonds and infrastructure, well, no restaurants are going to be willing to go there, because they're going to want to make sure that they're guaranteed, okay, hey, I'm going to get enough money to make this work. And sounds like the city just wants to keep pumping the Power and Light District, which then it makes a whole lot more sense to have the stadium right there.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Something to keep an eye on. Just reminds me of what's going on right now in Phoenix with the Coyotes. As they've been struggling to get an arena for the longest. They got kicked out of their own arena. Of what's going on, and now they're about to go to Salt Lake City, it sounds like, and they're hoping and praying that they buy this land auction to build an arena wherever it is they try to get that right now. But just sounds like a mess, man. I hope they get it together, because I do think the Royals need a new stadium. I really do.
And honestly, I think they both do. I really do, because here I was able to go cover WrestleMania, and it was at Lincoln Financial Field, which is a newer stadium, but it's not all that new. It was built about 20 years ago, and it was remodeled 10 years ago. And the difference in getting 75,000 people in and out is night and day. I mean, night and day. It was shocking how fast the stadium filled up and how fast the stadium emptied out and how fast you could get concessions. Every aspect of the game or the entertainment experience was just markedly better. I was amazed at how much of a difference it made. And I'd imagine you could say the same thing going to Cowboys Stadium, going AT&T Stadium, the house of Jerry built, going to the Raiders Stadium at Allegiant Field. I think it's probably something you're going to feel everywhere. And, if more fans had a chance to go to other new NFL stadiums, I think they'd be shocked at the difference in the experience. I don't know. Have either of you guys been to any of the newer stadiums?
Yeah, I've been to. I went to Jerry World for a K-State game when they played Stanford, so I didn't get the full 80, 100,000 people there, but I did get in. Okay, I've been to Petco Park in San Diego. That's what reminds me of as far as the downtown ballpark.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. It was easy to get down there. They had a nice garage that was by the area that I parked and walked through the quarter area before I got to the baseball stadium, which was kind of cool. And it was a great atmosphere too. A lot of people you could see was hanging out the bars before the game, and then walked right over there after the games on a Sunday afternoon that I went. So I do see that. And I've been to the Mavericks Arena in Dallas to go see the Mavs play, which is by downtown as well.
Yeah.
And they got the train comes right by it. So you can either drive down there or you can catch the train, take you right up to by the stadium. You can leave out of there. So yeah, it's something they gotta think about when they talking about remodeling as far as with Arrowhead with the plans they're trying to do, because it, like you said, it took about an hour for me to get home. And I live literally 7 minutes away from the stadium, but it took me probably an hour, I say, by the time I actually got to my house. And I was surprised the Cubs Padres were still on, or the Padres Dodgers were still on. When I got up to the house. But yeah, it was crazy. It took that long for some place that I live like 7 minutes away.
But it was just a night and day difference. And something else that jumped out at me, Philadelphia, all of their sports facilities, the professional ones, are right there in the same development, which is as far located away from downtown as Arrowhead and Kaufman are, maybe even a bit further. The Wells Fargo Center, the arena, Lincoln Financial Field, and Citizens Ballpark are all right there. And in the middle, showing that it's possible, they have an entertainment district. The Xfinity Live, which is made up of 9 restaurants, bars, and it's right there. And because it's right there by the baseball stadium, the arena, and the football stadium, they're able to have events 220 nights a year, which is all you need, because I know from people who manage restaurants down at the Legends, when there's a sporting game, or last year when the Current played, the restaurants did as much business in one night as suburban restaurants would do in a week. So if you have 220 days, you're good.
All right.
So everything that we talked about that you can't do at Truman Sports Complex, they did. Because it is not anywhere close to the major residential areas of the city. Actually, heck, Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead are closer. But it was really a dramatic difference. And the other thing that they have is they do have public transit. They have a subway that drops you off from downtown right at the stadium complex. It took about 20 minutes from the hotel I was staying at in the city center to get to the stadium. Huge difference. And I don't know if something is in the plans to do that, because that's what would really move the needle, I think.
And you think about it for 2026.
Oh, yeah, no, my wife and I were talking about that as we were heading into WrestleMania, waiting for Cody Rhodes to finish the story and become the new undisputed Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world, which he did. She asked me, how's Kansas City going to handle the World Cup? We don't have this. No, we're going to handle it badly.
We got a new airport, though. We got that new airport.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's the starters.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. They're going to have to do some remodeling. The remodeling is going to have to come at Arrowhead. That's going to be a story, because the field was, I believe it was 10
Did they say the pitch is smaller than Children's Mercy Park's pitch?
So
significantly.
Children's Mercy is, I think, 75 yards wide. This was only 70. And World Cup is usually a little bigger. Children's Mercy is even a little small.
Yeah. I think we were 5 yards narrower and 10 yards shorter.
Yep.
So there's going to have to be some seats that are going out.
Yeah, they've talked about at Arrowhead, and I think I read, actually you can see it in your picture, the section that's closed off with the Sporting logo. That's the beginnings of the construction that they're having to do to make those seats so that they can roll them back.
Okay.
So it'll lose a little bit of capacity, but we'll be able to fit the right size field and stuff in there. So
FIFA ain't playing around.
No. Hopefully it'll get turf out of a lot of these stadiums, though, because I know a lot of them have to replace it with grass, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
Turf is horrible. I hate turf so much.
Yeah, you can't have turf for the World Cup.
Nope.
Now, they may do the modular fields, which can be a problem, too, as we found out with the Super Bowl and playing the Arizona Cardinals. But they'll obviously have them on a strict standard.
Yeah.
Now, just the final team, as we're rolling through here, let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs, because Rashee Rice, he's confessed now. He was driving the Lamborghini, paying $1,700 a day. Got that guy up to 119 miles an hour, which, needless to say, on the highway is not a great idea.
No.
He's going to have to face some consequences. I mean, I don't think there's jail time coming. I don't think there's a ban from the league coming, but I think you're going to see a 4 to 6 game suspension. There's going to be a huge fine, and obviously it's a massive distraction to a guy who the city and through his own effort was being anointed as the number 1 receiver. Now there's a question: do you have to do what they did when Tyreek Hill was having a lot of questions, and that led them to drafting McCall Hardman? Do you see a wide receiver draft out of necessity? Because I think a lot of people thought maybe, hey, you're going to draft an offensive tackle because you got Hollywood Brown now, you got Rashee Rice, you got Travis Kelce. It's not a huge need. We can take somebody 2nd or 3rd round.
What you think, Steve? I'm sorry.
No, I think that I think, yeah, we're still going to end up drafting a wide receiver. I kind of think they were already going to do that. That's my guess. I just think it's been such a need, and it's still a need, even with bringing in Hollywood Brown. It's still probably a need. So I'm personally am anticipating they'll take one in the 1st round still. Maybe a Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, a Xavier Leggett, I think is the other name I've heard. Those are the kind of the 3 that I'm guessing they'll probably take. But I think, yeah, it's still, this just kind of boasts it that, like, yeah, we need to take somebody because he's going to probably be out for 6 games. So we need to have somebody else.
Yeah. We don't want to try Sky Moore and Kadarius as wide receivers.
No,
I was reminded Kadarius is still in the building. I'm still surprised by that. I am surprised that they're still talking Kadarius up. Andy, what are you doing?
I'm pretty sure they're just holding on to him as a hot dog vendor. That's the only thing I can think. That's the only thing I can think.
Oh my goodness.
He's got that potential though, right? I mean, the guy moves like a video game player. It's not been productive, you know? He had one good game. It just happened to be in a super important game.
It's just like what I always said. The Giants got rid of him real quick. I'm like, the Giants got rid of him and they needed receivers and they got rid of him that quick. Sure. I'm like, something's got to be up. But Andy likes to take chances. He likes to roll the dice. So we'll see what he does. And I don't think he's going to do anything with Rashee because I saw some people say that he should be cut. No, maybe traded. Andy doesn't. He's not going to do that. But I think they will have some good talks this offseason. And like you say, he's going to pay. His biggest penalty really is going to have to pay those people that got hurt. That's really where he's going to be hit the most. That contract that he was probably thinking he was going to get is probably going to go towards that now. So
$11 million lawsuit filed against him today.
And that's just the people. We're not even talking about the car people that he leased it from. That he had no business even driving, doing that in that car on that highway. Yeah.
Yeah, he's buying that car.
Yeah,
and that's not a cheap car.
No.
And it is astonishing though too, because I mean, you can rent the Speedway if you wanted to go racing.
Right. And probably be cheaper.
Yeah, and he's not the first. He's by no means not the first professional athlete to do something like that. We won't be the last.
Yeah.
I don't.
But he should definitely know better though. Henry Ruggs should definitely taught you a lesson, and then in-house with Britt Reed should have taught you a bigger lesson.
Sure. I know there's a feeling of invincibility and invulnerability, and to be fair, I mean, you've probably always been good at everything and figure out, man, I got lightning reflexes. I can do this, and I'm driving this car. But yeah, just unfortunate because I was super impressed with Rashee Rice and his work ethic, and hopefully this is since nobody got seriously hurt, hopefully it's a learning experience, and he's able to move forward and still be that productive force that we saw it towards the end of the season, and I think he will be. It's just an unfortunate distraction.
Yep, and he's young. Young kids make stupid mistakes, especially when you give them a ton of money to go on top of it. So,
yeah, that's true. Money and perceived power aren't always a great combination,
right?
Yeah.
As evident by my personal run-in with a young Manny Ramirez driving the wrong way in his Corvette on West 25th Street going to the Great Lakes Brewery in Cleveland with his multiple fake IDs. And one of the Indians front office executives went there and said, hey, we'll just take Manny home. That's okay. and it's Manny Ramirez, so, you can believe that.
Yeah.
Oh, Manny being Manny. Is that what they used to say?
Yeah, and then I also got to cover Albert Bell driving,
Oh, oh,
chasing kids through the subdivision across the grass because they knocked out his house for trick or treating.
good old
So
Joey.
yeah. So it happens. Well, hey, let's wind it down here. Let's go to our weekly champion. We got the championship belt here from our sister station, Wrestling Spotlight. Steve, who's your champion of the week?
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to pick up one specific person. My champion of the week is just going to be the city of Kansas City. You know, having that big soccer match there and all eyes on us, and we showed up and performed well. We lost the game, but again, in this particular instance, that's not everything. So I'm just going to go with the city of Kansas City. Good work.
Okay, excellent. Chris?
Man, he took mine. I was going to say the same thing with the current, how they looking, how Sporting looking, and shout out to the Comets. You know, I see they doing their
in the
thing
playoffs.
too. Yeah. So shout out to the Comets doing their thing. If I had to pivot just a little bit, let me give some love since you got the belt in your hand. I didn't get to talk to you before. Cody Rhodes finished the story, baby.
There you go, yeah.
He finished the story. And Seth Rollins sold the whole WrestleMania weekend. So I love it. But shout out to Cody.
Yeah, it was exciting. You had 72,500 fans standing there belting out the lyrics to Cody's song Kingdom for probably, I think they played it through 5 times while he was celebrating in the ring. It was really crazy. It was it was an electric crowd. It was really impressive. And the WWE, I was amazed by this, but Philadelphia media was covering it hard. Economic impact from WrestleMania was $2.2 billion with a B.
Wow.
That is $900,000 more than the last Super Bowl.
Okay. You hear that, Mary Q? We got to get one of Arrowhead.
Right?
Let's go.
Right.
Yeah, that's reason to slap the roof up so you can get one of those. Although I guess you don't even need a roof. They had it in Philadelphia. It should be warmer here.
We had 500. We had 500 more people at a soccer game this weekend.
Yeah.
So, and that's not even counting people that could be on the ground. So
they did 2 nights though. So it was
okay.
Yeah,
fair.
2 nights, and actually it was actually 4 nights. So it added up. And hey, my champion of the week, I was going to give. We'll acknowledge Roman Reigns for holding the title as long as he did. He deserves some acknowledgement.
Love it.
The Rock for being the final boss and pocketing $39 million for 3 months' work.
Wow.
That's not bad.
Golly.
Yeah, and getting the ownership of his name back. But no, that's not bad work if you can get it. My champion of the week, because of the way he carried himself when he could easily have been down and he could have been blamed for the loss and, pointed out, because if you're just watching as a casual observer, it looked like Jake Davis had the turnover and that gave up the goal. Jake Davis had a tremendous attitude. He was sitting there front and center, answering every question, and said, hey, you know what? You're going to make mistakes. You just got to be confident. You got to move on. We got St. Louis next. And he said something to the effect of, hey, I know it's hard to feel confident when you just made a mistake in front of 72,000 people, but that's what I have to do. That's my job. That was great. That was a true champion's attitude. And that's a homegrown player, 22-year-old, just scored his first goal against Toronto a couple weeks ago, and has been, I think, one of the keys to both the late season run by Sporting last year and the better start this year. That's the kind of attitude you want to see, because you're going to make mistakes and, you got to brush it off and move on. So
some tell me he's going to turn up Saturday night then. He's going to turn up Saturday night then if he's the way he's talking then.
Yeah, and with that, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Chris, where can people hear you during the week on Kansas City Radio?
Oh, yeah. Playmaker show 3 to 7, Monday through Friday on KPRS, Hot 103 Jams. Check me out. Hot 103 Jams is the app, and KPRS.com is the website.
There you go. And Steve, where can people get a little bit more insight from you on the beautiful game here in Kansas City?
Well, I'm not on the radio, but Chris, if you need anybody, you just let me know. I'm happy to do it. You can find our podcast, Paint the Wall Podcast. We're PTW_pod on YouTube and on Twitter. If you want to hit us up there, we're always talking sporting.
Excellent. fun. Hey, and stay tuned to the Fired Up Network for more. For Game Time Kansas City, I'm Gerald Bentley, and we'll let Luera Loca, Taya Valkyrie, take us out. She's just telling you where you can get a little bit more pro wrestling news, too.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Taya Valkyrie, Luera Loca, and you are watching Wrestling Spotlight.
There we go.